Okay, welcome back everyone to week 3 of the Traditions Workshop. And we are on Tradition 3. My name's Tuija. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic and really glad that you're all here. And let's have a look. So my computer is going slow. My apologies. I'll try again.
Okay.
There it is. Let's start. If anyone would like to unmute and join in with saying the responsibility statement to begin with. I am responsible. And anyone anywhere reaches out for help. Hang on the hand of AA. Always be there. I am responsible for that. I'm responsible. Thank you, everyone. And so most weeks I'll start off with just doing a little bit of a recap of where we've been. And so the traditions are part of the 3 legacies of Alcoholics Anonymous, with the foundation being the 12 steps of recovery. And then it makes sense to move on to the traditions at the same time as we're doing the steps, or directly after. Unity through the 12 traditions, and particularly unity through the group, the heartbeat of AA, and then service through the 12 concepts. So at this point, I love going to page 15 in the 12 and 12. It has that beautiful description of AA's 12 steps, which are a group of principles, spiritual in their nature, which, if practiced as a way of life, can expel the obsession to drink and enable the sufferer to become happily and usefully whole. When something is expelled, it's been thrown away, ditched, it's not coming back. It's been cut, divorced, it's over. And the 12 traditions apply to the life of the fellowship itself. They outline the means by which AA maintains its unity and relates itself to the world about it, the way it lives and grows. And so just as my spiritual awakening has to be kept alive and growing and developing, so does our whole worldwide fellowship need to be kept alive and growing for those yet to come. That's what we're responsible for. And we looked at the meaning of the word legacy. It's like an inheritance. What do I do with an inheritance? I want to protect it for the generations to come. I don't want to just selfishly squander what has been given to me. And so just quickly recapping the first 2 weeks. So tradition 1, unity, we stick together or die alone. If you ever get to the point where, the traditions are too much, I can't remember them, I don't know them, just remember the first tradition, unity, over and that's the most important one. And last week we looked at tradition 2, dealing with leadership. Leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. And the idea of that upside down triangle, there isn't a career progression up the ladder here, it goes in reverse. With our group members, the heartbeat of AA being at the top of that inverted triangle. And we talked about the group conscience, and informed group conscience especially, not just a straight out yes, no, majority vote, majority wins, but the importance of also listening to the minority voice, taking the time to carefully consider all sides of a topic or an argument, or not an argument as a fight, but as an idea, and not to make impulsive, rash decisions. I don't know about you, but for me, that's part of my alcoholism. I get a bright idea in my head and I'm off. I'm implementing that quicker than you can say, let's think about it. And so as a group, collectively, we need to slow things down. There's no bosses here. How does this work? There's nobody in charge, but only the loving God, as he may express himself through that informed group conscience, and the importance of rotation through service. If anyone is in a group role and holding on to that role for too long, it prevents others from learning and growing and really being part of something. So we'll next week looking at group autonomy, about what does that rotation look like in autonomous groups. But generally speaking, group roles are rotated 6 monthly or 12 monthly. Sometimes it might even be 3 monthly. And so we have a responsibility, really. I have a responsibility to sponsor people and take them through the 12 steps in the big book so that they can have a spiritual awakening. But I also need to either bring them into my home group if possible and sponsor them into service to make them feel welcome and feel part of, or if they've got a different home group somewhere else. But mostly for me to be that example. Again, I can't give instruction or make suggestions on things that I'm not doing. So being a member of a home group has, most of the time I've been sober, been an integral part of my sobriety, and at times has absolutely saved my butt. When I was at that time where I was putting in the bare minimum and my sobriety was not good quality, but I had a weekly commitment. I had to show up. And so we looked at this bookends of the traditions. So here we are in the 4 traditions that talk about the group, specifically traditions 2, 3, 4, and 5. Today, looking at the membership tradition. So tradition 3, the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. How that's just so simple. How beautiful is that? And I know when I came in, I honestly didn't really want to stop drinking because I didn't think that was possible. But nobody came and quizzed me or asked me or anything. I just quietly came along and I realized that, yeah, this is what I need. This is what I want. And let's look at the long form. And I'd encourage anyone to become more familiar with the long form of the traditions, because even though it's called the long form, they're not that long. They're easy to read and give me a little bit more information. So tradition 3, our membership ought to include all who suffer from alcoholism. So that all is one of those words. I mean, it's pretty clear. 100% is all who suffer from alcoholism. Hence, we may refuse none who wish to recover. Nor ought AA membership ever depend upon money or conformity. Any 2 or 3 alcoholics gathered together for sobriety may call themselves an AA group, provided that as a group they have no other affiliation. And we actually had a little bit of confusion at my home group recently. One of the groups has gone into recess and someone wanted to keep going. We weren't sure if they could call themselves an AA group or not because they're not registered with National Office here in Australia. And so when the traditions came about in 1948, it was a very different society to today. Today, groups really need to be registered with their national main office for insurance purposes and so on. Because if a group is meeting and they're not registered with the main service body, then, you know, individuals could potentially be liable if something goes wrong. And so this is the reading from Language of the Heart. So in the last 2 weeks, I've actually shared a screenshot out of the book. This is just the text I got from the PDF on the internet. So tradition 3, written or shared by Bill W. in February 1948. The third tradition is us, and remembering that, anyway, we'll get to the illustrated pamphlet, but if anyone's been here before or if you have that illustrated pamphlet, remember looking at the cover of that pamphlet, these traditions are a distillation of AA's experience. So these aren't wonderful guidelines that people sat around and brainstormed and nutted out. These were actually worked out through those early pioneering members' experience. And I was reflecting on it recently, and gosh, I'd say I'm guessing they must have lost a lot of members just through resentments and power plays and personality difficulties and clamorings for power, property, prestige, all kinds of things. So we've really had the hard work done for us. And as our literature says, these were hammered out on the anvils of experience. And again, I've heard in AA just recently, the genius learns from the experience of other people. So we're very fortunate nowadays to have all this handed to us on a platter when we come into AA. So this The third tradition is a sweeping statement indeed. It takes in a lot of territory. Some people might think it too idealistic to be practical. It tells every alcoholic in the world that he may become and remain a member of Alcoholics Anonymous so long as he says so. And that's pretty amazing for someone like me. I never felt like I fit in anywhere, and certainly towards the end of my drinking, I wasn't welcome in a lot of places. And here is AA opening its arms to me, opening the doors for me and saying, come on in, we don't care what you've done, where you've been, who you are, who you know, who you don't know, just come on in. And it says here, continuing in the reading, in short, Alcoholics Anonymous has no membership rule. Why is this so? Our answer is simple and practical. Even in self-protection, we do not wish to erect the slightest barrier between ourselves and the fellow alcoholic who still suffers. We know that society has been demanding that he conform to its laws and conventions, but the essence of his alcoholic malady is the fact that he has been unable or unwilling to conform either to the laws of man or God. If anything, the sick alcoholic is a rebellious nonconformist and lost. What I got from that reading there is this is someone who is really lost, unable to conform either to the laws of God or man. How well we understand that. Every member of Alcoholics Anonymous was once a rebel himself. Hence, we cannot offer to meet him at any halfway mark. We must enter the dark cave where he is and show him that we understand. So no matter how long we've been sober, or me, I can't afford to forget where I've come from. I can't think that I'm any different at many years sober than I am to the person who's day one. I've got to enter that dark cave with them and show them that you and me, we're the same. We realise that he is altogether too weak and confused to jump hurdles. If we raise obstacles, he might stay away and perish. He might be denied his priceless opportunity. So when he asks, are there any conditions? We joyfully reply, no, not a one. When sceptically he comes back saying, but certainly there must be things I have to do and believe, we quickly answer, in Alcoholics Anonymous, there are no musts. Cynically, perhaps, he then inquires, what is all this going to cost me? We're able to laugh and say, nothing at all. There are no fees and dues. And we all know, I know for myself, I certainly paid those dues and fees in that 12-year period where I was drinking. Absolutely. I've paid my membership fees for AA in full. Thus, in a brief hour, is our friend disarmed of his suspicion and rebellion. His eyes begin to open on a new world of friendship and understanding. So this is what we offer to the newcomer. Doesn't matter who they are. Friendship and understanding, or fellowship and understanding. Bankrupt idealist that he has been, his ideal is no longer a dream. I know my ideal was that people would just accept me for who I am, that people would be fair and honest and decent. Of course, I wasn't like that. I didn't know how to be like that. People would be accepting and there'd be no judging and criticising and so on, and no hierarchies. And here it all is in AA. After years of lonely search, it now stands revealed. The reality of Alcoholics Anonymous bursts upon him. And I've highlighted this next sentence. For Alcoholics Anonymous saying, we have something priceless to give if only you will receive. And it's hard for alcoholics. It's hard for me to receive. Not these days, I'm used to it. I'm very comfortable. If someone wants to give me something, I'm very comfortable to say, thank you. That's very kind of you. Thank you. That's very generous. And so this is it. God is, your higher power is offering you this gift of sobriety. All you have to do is receive it. And Alcoholics Anonymous is saying to the newcomer, this is yours. Grab hold of it. So we have something priceless to give. If only you will receive, and I underline the next sentence, that is all. But to our new friend, it is everything. Without more ado, he becomes one of us. Our membership tradition does contain, however, one vitally important qualification. That qualification relates to the use of our name, Alcoholics Anonymous. We believe that any 2 or 3 alcoholics gathered together for sobriety may call themselves an AA group, provided that as a group they have no other affiliation. Here our purpose is clear and unequivocal. Unequivocal just means clear. There's no room for error. There's nothing to quibble about. It's very clear. For obvious reasons, we wish the name Alcoholics Anonymous to be used only in connection with straight AA activities. And this is the last page of the Language of the Heart reading. One can think of no AA member who would like, for example, to see the formation of dry AA groups, wet AA groups, Republican AA groups, Communist AA groups. Few, if any, would wish our groups to be designated by religious denominations. We cannot lend the AA name, even indirectly, to other activities, however worthy. If we do so, we shall become hopelessly compromised and divided. We think that AA should offer its experience to the whole world for whatever use can be made of it, but not its name. Nothing could be more certain. Let us of AA therefore resolve that we shall always be inclusive and never exclusive, offering all we have to all save our title. May all barriers be thus levelled, may our unity thus be preserved, and may God grant us a long life and a useful one. And so the homework here is only to read the tradition in the 12 and 12. So if anyone happens to be here for the first time, we've read privately on our own tradition 1, tradition 2, and your homework this week will be to read tradition 3 in the 12 and 12. So most traditions meetings or workshops you go to, or a lot of them, I guess, would be out of the 12 and 12. And this time I just thought, let's do something different. Let's have a look at a few different pieces of literature. So what we're using here is a little bit of the 12 and 12, the illustrated pamphlet, Language of the Heart, Daily Reflections, and we also look at the traditions checklist towards the end of the hour. And so let's have a look at that illustrated pamphlet. This is really great because these pictures give us a great depiction of these traditions and give us a sort of different view on it too, just a different look at it. So you can see that picture there, the third tradition. It's a bridge. I'll just see if I can. Okay, can everyone see that okay? I'm assuming you can. So there's a bridge there from one side of the mountains to the other, and you can see those labels, which we've had to throw away: requirements for membership, initiation fees, status, references required, rules, connections, all these kind of things. We've thrown away all membership rules and regulations that might keep you out. We want you to have the same chance for sobriety that we have had. And there's a picture of a really big tiger and 2 little guys. We aren't a bit afraid you'll harm us, never mind how twisted or violent you may be. And that's from the 12 and 12. And so the reading here in the illustrated pamphlet: isn't every organisation entitled to have rules for membership? Why did AA decide to forego this privilege, to be inclusive, never exclusive? That's easy. Early members tried it the other way and it just didn't work. As the fellowship was nearing its 10-year mark, the office that served as headquarters asked the groups to list their membership rules and send them in. Bill W. recalled, if all of these edicts had been in force everywhere at once, it would have been practically impossible for any alcoholic to have ever joined AA. About 9/10 of our oldest and best members would never have got by. Sorry, I can't help but laugh. It's ridiculous, right? So the rule books went out the window, and you will see the humour when you read Tradition 3 in the 12 and 12. You'll see the humour. So the rule books went out the window and were replaced by one uncomplicated sentence: Tradition 3. But somebody may ask, isn't this tradition itself a rule? It does state one requirement for membership. Let's read it again and ask another question. Who determines whether or not newcomers qualify, whether they do want to stop drinking? Obviously, nobody except the newcomers themselves. And as I said, I didn't really want to stop because I didn't think I could live without alcohol, but I didn't tell you that. I wanted the problems to go away, but I had hoped that I could continue to drink. But you smashed that idea for me by telling me about the hopeless condition that I had of mind and body. So continuing in the illustrated pamphlet, everybody else simply has to take their word for it. In fact, they don't even have to say it aloud, and that's fortunate for many of us who arrived at AA with only a half-hearted desire to stay sober. We are alive because the AA road stayed open to us. The problem faced by this tradition isn't just past AA history, it keeps coming up. For instance, when a group debates whether to exclude alcoholics who have problems other than alcohol or have differing lifestyles, the tradition mentions no such additional requirements, no demand that prospective members must not have a history of drug abuse, a certain lifestyle, or an institutional background. All alcoholics are welcome. What about the group that seems to impose extra requirements beyond a desire to stop drinking? This might be a special interest group or collection of groups in which, for example, each member must be a physician or a young person, a man, a woman, a priest, or a law enforcement officer. By their own account, those attending special interest groups consider themselves AA members first. They attend general membership meetings as well as those that fill their other individual needs. And they remain devoted to AA's primary purpose. These special interest groups, and I'll just say here for myself, these special interest groups, men's groups, women's groups, and so on, need not be divisive. And I don't believe that they contravene any of our traditions. I know there are some people who feel strongly otherwise, but for me, I don't think it does any harm to have these special interest groups. These special interest groups offer only one instance of the diverse and inclusive membership within our fellowship. Our traditions allow unparalleled freedom, not only to every AA member, but to every AA group. And we've got, let's see if we can have a look at those pictures down at the bottom. So, it shows a man that if you can see that picture, so that everyone's facing the front, and there's Mr. Contrary at the back, sitting with his back to the front. He looks a bit sullen, a bit unhappy, and the fellow in the back row is just turning around, just smiling at him. You know, love and tolerance is our code, and that looks like it might be special interest groups here, doctors and police or whatever they are, physicians in AA. And that's okay. All right, and so let's go back to the slides. Oh, what have I done? Oh, it's gone back to the beginning. Excuse me. Thanks for your patience. Oh, and with these Zoom meetings, can you all see that? I came across this group called Queers, Crackpots and Fallen Women. And I don't know if I'm guessing this meeting is still going. If anyone was interested in checking it out, I know there's a woman who lives in Chiang Mai in Thailand. I met her at this group. And Queers, Crackpots and Fallen Women is a phrase that's used in Tradition 3 in the 12 and 12. And even though I'd read it a number of times, obviously hadn't remembered studied it enough or anything, and recently I came across that phrase. So I just thought I'd share that with you just for a bit of fun, how someone's been creative with using our literature in naming their group. And so with that, we're going to come over to Mary, and the other piece of homework is a group member will use the daily reflections and choose a reading or two to share with us out of the daily reflections. Come on in, Mary. Thank you. Thank you for your service today.
My name is Mary, and I'm so glad to be here. So I was reading through the literature on Tradition 3, and I couldn't decide on just one. So Tuija gave me liberty to do two of them. So first of all, I'm going to start with January 25th on page 33. What we needed, each other. You are AA is really saying to every serious drinker, you are an AA member if you say so. Nobody can keep you out. 12 Steps, 12 Traditions, page 139. For years, whenever I reflected on Tradition 3, The only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. I thought it valuable only to newcomers. It was their guarantee that no one could bar them from AA. Today, I feel enduring gratitude for the spiritual development of the tradition, that this tradition has brought me. I don't seek out people obviously different from me, or from myself. Tradition 3, concentrating on the one way I am similar to others, brought me to know that help every kind of alcoholic, just as they have helped me. Charlotte, the atheist, showed me a higher standard of ethics and honor. Clay, another race, taught me patience. Winslow, who is gay, led me by example to true compassion. Young Megan says that seeing me at meetings sober 30 years keeps her coming back. Tradition 3 ensured that we would get what we need, each other. And then the other one I wanted to read is May 29th, page 158. And it is called True Tolerance. The only requirement for AA membership is the desire to stop drinking. The 12 and 12, page 159. I first heard the short form of the third tradition in the preamble. When I came to AA, I could not accept myself, my alcoholism, or a higher power. If there had been any physical, mental, or moral religious requirements for membership, I would be dead today. Bill W. said in his take on the third tradition, or on the traditions, that the third tradition is a charter for individual freedom. The most impressive thing to me was the feeling of acceptance from members who were practicing the third tradition by tolerating and accepting me. I felt acceptance and love in God. Acceptance is love, and love is God's will for us. I, over the last couple of weeks, have been experiencing some difficulties with members of a few groups and Tradition 3. And the first reading I want to reflect on because I have had some instances. When I came into AA, I was on almost 26 different medications. Nobody questioned me on that. Now, one of these medications is controversial, but it is prescribed. And I have, because I'm on this controversial medication, been able to get off of a whole bunch of others. In the recent past, I was reaching out to someone who had decades of sobriety for support and being brutally honest. And I let this person know about this medication and was informed that absolutely no mind-altering substance is allowed. Well, excuse me, I have mental health issues. And if I don't take mind-altering substances, you don't want to be around me. I will not be okay. And this person actually hung up on me. And so right there, that was not love and tolerance. That was not the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. Okay. The other thing is in that second reading that I did, it talks about love and tolerance and accepting people where they are. And what I have been experiencing that shows me that it doesn't matter how much sobriety you have, we're all sick. Apparently, a while back, prior, in fellowship before a meeting, I said something. I don't recall what was said, but I instantly felt a rejection from the group. And I have since left that group because of that rejection. And it has recently come to me that the reason for that rejection was because I said something prior to the meeting that other people took exception to. Now, not one person was able to come to me and say that I had possibly done something wrong. All they did was shut me down, ignore me, shun me from the group. And that is not accepting someone for only wanting to stop drinking. When we don't follow the traditions, we run the risk of doing severe damage to other people. They are so important. And part of what hurts so badly is that in order for me to find out, that I may have done something, someone else had to do the exact same thing that I may have done in order for me to find this out, because it came from someone who was not present. So how can I be shunned for something that other people in the meeting are also doing? So that's what I have to say on tradition 3. Sorry, it's so emotional and kind of negative, but it's very impactful when it's not followed. So thank you.
God bless you, Mary. Thank you for sharing with us your experience, strength, and hope. AA, one thing one of my early sponsors used to say to me, people are fallible, the program is infallible. Look at the steps and the traditions, not the people. And without wanting to judge anyone, everyone is my teacher in AA. Those that teach me how I want to be and those who teach me how I don't want to be. And Mary, just thank you for coming and sharing with us when obviously it's not a happy time right now. So this is why we have traditions. This is why we have to have traditions, principles above personalities. What my sponsor told me, look to AA, look to the principles, look to God, not to imperfect people. So I will continue on. I think I've got one more screen share, and then the floor will be open for sharing, for Q&A and comments. Hang on. Okay. Sorry, I've just got a little bit of I can't even say it. Technical difficulties. Okay, I think you can probably see that now. So we're looking at the checklist, traditions checklist. And I always thought these were for the group, and they can be. Groups can do inventories, and groups can look at these as a whole together as group members. But really, it's an inventory for myself, a checklist to have a look at myself. What kind of AA member am I? What kind of group member am I? So the first question for me is, in my mind, do I prejudge some new AA members as those who likely will not make it? I've done that in the past, and I don't have a clue who's going to make it and who's not. I have to have an open mind for every newcomer who comes through the door. God does the work, not me. But as a member of a unified group who is trying to follow the traditions, we've got a better chance of carrying the AA message. 2, is there some kind of alcoholic whom I privately or publicly do not want in my AA group. So love and tolerance of all, inclusivity, never exclusivity. And I don't know who's going to become a wonderful group servant and who isn't. I can't judge, or who's going to stick around and who isn't. My job is just to make sure that I'm there with consistency and commitment. 3, do I set myself up as a judge of whether a newcomer is sincere or not? Do they really want to stop drinking or not? We've talked about that already. It was in the reading. Do I let language, religion or lack of it, race, education, age, sexual identity or other such things interfere with my carrying the message? That's a great question. Like, you can see, or I can see, how important these traditions are for my own ongoing spiritual growth and development. And if I'm not in the traditions, and if I'm not in these inventory questions, I'm missing out on a whole load of ego deflation that I really need in order to maximize my usefulness to God and to others. But a side benefit, I get a better quality of life. I get more freedom and more peace of mind when I can do these things. 5, am I over-impressed by a celebrity, a doctor, a clergyman, an ex-convict? Or can I just treat this new member simply and naturally as one more sick human like the rest of us? And for me, that ties in about what we were talking about or what I was talking about in Tradition 1. And I'm not even sorry for saying this, but the newcomer is not the most important person in the room, just as the doctor or the celebrity is not the most important person in the room. We have an equality here where everyone's equal. Everyone's just as much loved and wanted and needed in Alcoholics Anonymous. And the final question, when someone turns up at AA needing information or help, even if he can't ask for it aloud, does it really matter to me what they do for a living, where they live, what their domestic arrangements are, whether they have been to AA before, what their other problems are? And I'm just going to quickly comment on that. I don't know what it's like where you live, but where I live here in Perth, there's a lot of socioeconomic and class distinctions. It's a big deal what suburb you live in and what postcode you live in. And it's a big, big deal what kind of car you drive, what label clothes you wear, and so on. And that stuff used to really piss me off, because I thought at the end of the day, we're all just equal. We're all just human beings. And it was so refreshing for me to go to AA. Nobody asked me, where do you live? They weren't looking at my car, which I didn't even have one. Some of you know I had to sell my car because I couldn't trust myself not to keep drink driving. So there was none of that. The only interest they took in me was, did I think I was an alcoholic? Did I want help? That's all they wanted from me, and it was so refreshing. And now, even nowadays, if and when I go for fellowship after meetings, I'm not interested in talking about what brand handbag you've got or your shoes or anything. I'm just not. I'm there for sobriety, even at the meeting after the meeting. That's just me. You know, probably I'm still a bit socially awkward or whatever, and I'm a bit one-eyed and one-minded about Alcoholics Anonymous. But maybe it needs to be that way. Maybe this is where newcomers get to really hear the nitty-gritty of how do we live sober. Maybe the newcomer doesn't really want to hear about my brand of handbag or what car I drive. I don't know. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Anyway, all I know, this is a life and death matter. And so the floor is now open. If anyone has any questions, comments, shares about Tradition 3, or even about Tradition 1 or 2, something you read in the 12 and 12 that stuck out for you that you want to share with us, please come in. Hi, Jill. Welcome.
Hi, Toya. Thanks very much for having this meeting today, and thanks everybody doing service. It's great to be here today. You know, I've really enjoyed it. It's great having, you know, my first day off actually for months, and it was nice to wake up this morning. I felt a wee bit lost actually. I thought, what am I going to do? It was weird, but it's really nice to be writing the book and really enjoying it this morning, you know. And you know what I've just realised as well is that, you know, I feel really safe in a meeting that has traditions, and you know, that people are working the traditions in their life and they're working them through the group as well. because I've felt a bit unsafe recently with some of the meetings that I've been going to, and some meetings, especially since Zoom, and I get sober on Zoom, but I also get sober, through a group that worked the traditions very to the everything, they worked them really strictly. And that was the first place I learned about the traditions as well. And I always felt safe in that group. And I realised that as time went on, I liked what Mary shared as well, what she shared about, I don't know what happened or whatever, but I understand the situation because I've been in that as well. And it's where traditions haven't been adhered to. And it's made me really, really uncomfortable, because some little groups have then went off and they've put the hand up to say as if, well, you're not welcome anymore. You're not welcome in this wee group anymore, because we don't want to do it that way. We'll do it this way. And if you don't fit in here, then that's it. You're out. And that was my experience in the last 2 years as well. And I kind of looked into it a wee bit and I thought, well, what's happening a lot on Zoom is that a lot of the meetings are calling themselves an event and some meetings are actually, what you spoke about at the beginning there, where we're registered through the AA and we're actually a registered AA group. And that's, I find, where the difference is that this tradition especially comes in, because then if they're not an actual AA meeting, then they don't have to let you in. Because they're not working the traditions. And for me, that is not, all inclusive. And I do believe as well, like you said, AA has got to be all inclusive. I remember one of my very early experiences, and it was a transvestite, I think, that came into the meeting, and myself and two friends who had been through the programme, we were obviously working it to a very high level at this point, let me tell you, not good. And we had this discussion now, and we had this discussion about who was going to sponsor this person. And I says, well, it'll not be me. Not be me. What? Why would I ever say that about anybody? Like the responsibility statement that you read out in the beginning is, I am responsible when anybody, anywhere. And what gives me the authority to even think that they might even have asked me to sponsor them, but yet I'm making the decision I'm not sponsoring you, So I realised that I was very sick, and now that was 16 years ago. So if I'm very sick, and there's a lot of other people that are very sick, and so I'm very grateful for the experience now that I've learned the difference between, again, the event, because I was quite blasé, thinking, oh, well, why not bother? An event's a great idea because then you can do exactly what you want in this group. But you can't do exactly what you want. If we'd done exactly what we wanted, there would be no AA, And I see that now quite clearly. And coming back makes me feel safe. And I think that's another reason why the traditions should be in groups as well, is to make the newcomer feel safe, and be part of as well. So I thank you for this, Toya. I sat and I listened to last week's. Last week I had the headphones on and taking notes in it, and I really enjoyed last week's as well. I'm just sorry I never made it due to my exams, but I'm full in again. So thanks very much, Toya. Thank you, and everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jill, for your participation. And yeah, what came to me with one of Mary's readings, she taught that, there was Charlotte and, who those other people were. And yeah, we are people who would not normally mix. And I don't see that as a negative at all. I think it's a wonderful adventure of being human that I get to mix with people that I wouldn't choose to. My world might be very narrow if I just went around mixing with people I like and I choose. I'd probably just be alone. No, that sounds dreadful. Anyway, Yvonne, welcome. Come on in. My cat.
Hi, Yvonne, alcoholic. Thank you, Tula, for starting the meeting. And Mary, thank you very much for your reading and sharing. You got me thinking there. Couple of things to start off. Yeah, I'm very judgmental. I could think, that person is not going to make it, or if a doctor comes on the meeting, I get quite intimidated, or if someone's really educated, I get quite intimidated. Now, there's another thing. I was in a meeting, a big book study meeting yesterday, and yeah, so they share on the steps, you know, and so someone reads, and then they have question and answers after that, and then they share on it, you know. But the secretary now she states that that anyone that is, you have to be like 90 and 3 months sober to to share in the readings, the steps. And so anyway, after that there's a conscience group, and they were sharing about the physical meeting and the Zoom meeting, how to present it, you know. And they were coming up with ideas. One was saying, like, you know, they should have the secretary, and what else? I can't remember everything, but come from the physical meeting, so that everyone in the Zoom meeting is focused. The main attraction is the physical meeting. But anyway, so I shared something. I said that completely something different. I said, well, I really do love this meeting, and I get a lot from this meeting. And I do feel intimidated like that, you know. But okay, that's down to me, like. Wouldn't it be a good idea, maybe at the end, to encourage newcomers to share something on the steps or whatever, just maybe like the last 10 minutes of the meeting, you know? But no one got back to me. No one gave me a reply or nothing, just staring at me like I got 4 horns in my head, you know what I mean? And then another thing, you know, who agrees that what we said about the, you know, the Zoom and the physical meetings? And they all put their hands up. And then for a laugh, I didn't put my hand up. And I goes, well, I didn't put my hand up like that. And then they all stared at me. I goes, well, I'm only joking. But I just felt like, you know, I didn't feel part of, you know what I mean? I didn't. But maybe that's I don't know. Was I in any right or what? Oh yeah, and the secretary said, she goes, you're just a visitor. I didn't like that either. The conscience group, I'm just a visitor. So I didn't feel part of that. You know, so it's no good for my confidence at all whatsoever. Like they knew it all, la 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 la. You know what I mean? I knew nothing. So I just thought I would share that, because that was plenty. Thanks, Mary, because you brought that up, and that annoyed me. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, because my confidence is not as good as my confidence is fucking, excuse my language, sorry, on the floor anyway. Do you know what I mean? I mean, okay, it's not down to them. Okay, it's me. It's my fault. But I've just putting some ideas out there. You know. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you for listening, ladies.
Thank you for sharing, Yvonne, and it's great to see you here as always. Thanks for being here. Welcome, Valerie.
Thank you, Tuija. Thanks for hosting the meeting. My name is Valerie. It's great to look over the alcoholic, and really enjoying the discussion this morning. And I'm actually coming, my share is about actually having had to remove somebody from a group. Hugely, hugely difficult decision to make, you know, because like what we've just been discussing, you know, it is an all-inclusive group, and if someone has a desire to stop drinking, that should be enough. But in the case I'm talking about, it's actually a lady I sponsored. I had a huge connection with her, but she was disrupting the meeting. She was coming on drunk, and she was berating other members. And I felt, you know, as a chairperson, I'm responsible for the running of that meeting, but I couldn't take on that decision myself to remove her myself on one. So it ran for a couple of weeks, and she was, not just attacking us on screen, but actually off screen and attacking members of the group on chat and that, So, but even so, even making that decision, and I actually, there was a group conscious, and the group made the decision, and it was for the safety of the group, the safety of all of us. We're all equal, and my sobriety is I fight for my sobriety. And I want to protect even those around me. But I pray for that person still today, and I didn't want to send her out in the lurch. I tried to organise that she could, associate with another group, and I actually asked her to go back to her previous sponsor, and because I am responsible. I don't want to, abandon somebody out there, because if we don't have the rooms, what have we got? As an active alcoholic, as in her case, as an active alcoholic, where else is she going to get sobriety? Where are any of us going to get sobriety? And trying to balance that, and something I'm aware of at all times, especially when I'm chairing a meeting, to be all inclusive, because a lot of us come on to meetings. I come on to meetings. None of you actually know where I am today, what I'm dealing with as I sit here. Nobody knows, and we have to be open. I'm here because I want to stop drinking, and I want to stop drinking because I don't want to be triggered by what's going on in my life. And all I present to you is just me sitting here, and I have to be so acutely aware of that. So I adore the fact that the traditions are read and we adhere to them and we study them. They're the foundation stone of our group. So thank you for sharing that. And as I say, I'm so sad for Mary, because I am like everyone else. I form opinions. I'm making comments about people in my own head, and what I think. I do all that myself. I'm trust me, I'm bloody no saint. But I don't want to be responsible for somebody out there drinking and killing themselves. I really, really don't want it. So I have to be aware at all times of my role, as I say, especially when I'm chairing meetings. So it's so sad that Mary and others shared that they felt that. I felt intimidated. I do feel intimidated when I go to new meetings that I don't know, because I don't know, when I see people and they're all chatting and they're all best friends and they're waving at each other and chatting, that really upsets me in a way, because I don't feel I don't belong. And, so I want to be the one that sort of reaches out when someone new comes in and says, hey, you're welcome. That's what I try to do. So thank you for that, Tuija. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much, Valerie. I'm really, really loving the shares, and I always tell my sponsees, always, when you're in a meeting, when you're at your home group, don't be just hanging around with your mates and all that. Look for the woman who you haven't met before. You need to find out, are they a newcomer? Are they from out of town? Who are they? Where have they come from? That's what you're there to do. Don't be standing around in a little clique. And that really annoys me. That really pissed me off. And I went to New Zealand one time, and I walked up to a meeting, didn't know anyone. There they were in a clique. And look, when I've shared this before, someone's shared back to me, cross-shared, and said, oh, when I go somewhere, it's my responsibility. No, it's not. It's the responsibility of the group to reach out to the newcomer, whether it's an old-timer, new in town, a visitor, a traveller, whatever. This is the responsibility of a united group that is adhering to the traditions. That's my opinion. And I think it's coloured by my experience, which I've shared with you probably many times. Some of you have heard it. I was greeted like a long-lost friend. There was someone at the door waiting for me, right? And they welcomed me like a long-lost friend. This woman was 2 years sober at the time. She knew everyone in AA in Perth. She knew everyone in that room. She could have been standing around smoking and enjoying a cup of tea with her mates and having a laugh and having a good time. Instead, she was standing by herself at the door waiting for me. So I'm grateful for that example that she set for me, and I try my best to uphold that. I try not to get complacent. Balkia, come on in, welcome. And so that goes for Zoom meetings as well. If I'm a regular attendee at some Zoom meeting, which I don't know that I am, but I do that here. If someone's new, I try and say, okay, have I met you before? Welcome, that kind of thing. And even though this isn't an actual group as such, there's kind of a group conscience here, yeah? It's your fault that I'm doing the traditions. You chose this. I had no say in the matter. Come on in, Balkia.
Thank you, Tuija. I'm Balkia. I'm an alcoholic. I have about a bit more than a year's experience in meetings, first in another fellowship and then in AA, mainly online. I found the AA meetings in where I live. I'm going to be really judgmental, but this is how I experienced it in early sobriety. Some meetings they wanted the word God not to be named because that was just too much, and so I've been traveling along for some meetings, and it took me a while to find it was an online meeting where I really felt comfortable to be myself, and I was still ashamed, and I hadn't taken the steps yet, but I felt at home, and I got into service as well at that meeting, and after a while, it felt like in the meeting everybody acted like an angel and was like so friendly and loving, and as soon as we got into the business meeting or into the WhatsApp for service team, all gloves came off and there was nothing left of the friendly talk. And that really that shocked me. And then I saw, hey, this two-faced situation, and also very confronted with my own behavior, because then I went to go and do that as well because it bloody annoyed me. And I felt no, I can't do this. It's not good for me. So I stepped down after I said a monthly termination time, and I said I need to pass this on. And now I re-entered the WhatsApp group of that group, and there are certain people that I have an allergy with. I don't know what it is, but I've taken the steps now, and I am sober for a bit more than a year. And what I notice now, I got in this tradition meeting by, I don't know, hearing Tuija on whim, and I thought, that may be a good idea. And now I'm still part of that meeting, but I'm not going to let me pushed away. But by taking the steps, I'm not feeling so vulnerable and easily that I feel affected by what other people do. Today I had something, and when I then give it over to my higher power, I just think I can smile and I can just walk away. I have a choice. I don't need to be in that meeting. I have a choice. But my choice is now to be in that meeting, and hopefully I can contribute something, and hope to get that consciousness more in this group. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Balkia. Welcome, and welcome. Great to have you here, and thank you for sharing. Just on a little side note, thank God we now, through Zoom, have access to probably millions of AA meetings, right? If I go into a meeting and I don't like it, I don't have to ever go back. I went to a meeting recently, just stumbled in randomly into this meeting, and they were friendly and welcoming enough. There's like a bit of a game show kind of setup. It was a bit odd, and I thought, okay, I'll keep an open mind. Then they started pulling out all this non-AA literature. And there was only about 11 people there, and I could have just left. They don't know me, but for some reason I thought, just stay for the hour. And I was just horrified. And anyway, last night, or whenever it was, Monday night, I was at a live meeting here, an in-person meeting in Perth, and at a really strong group. They're called By the Book Speakers Meeting. And I love that group for their commitment, their consistency, the way they sponsor people. And one of their group members shared, and he said there are 220 pieces of AA literature. I don't know if that's correct or not. Probably is true. If we have 220 pieces of AA literature, why would I ever think about even using non-AA literature in an AA meeting? I don't know. Anyway, that was a little bit random and off topic, but that does bring us to the end of Tradition 3 and week 3. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And next week, Laurie has volunteered to do a couple of readings for us, or a reading or whatever, on Tradition 4. So really looking forward to that. And anyone who wishes to join in, let's finish off as we started with the responsibility statement. Can everyone see that? If you want to unmute, please go ahead. I am responsible, and anyone living who reaches out for help, always to be there.
I want the hand of
I am responsible.
that I am
Therefore,
responsible.
I am responsible.
Thanks, everyone.